So we're now slowly easing from the individual to the group, the team, and then the organization. So we're talking about motivation. Last time we talked about some motivational theories that were sort of in vogue. Um, the point now is that, yeah, you got a theory, you understand the theory. How do you apply some of these things? When it comes to the real world, what does it really mean in terms of application? And so let's try to have a quick look at some of the applied models of motivation and what happens there. So um, the most important thing is the job characteristic model. I'll also send you a reading after the class, so please read it and be very thorough with the job characteristic model, because that is a very, very important part of your whole life at work and how you motivate other people around you. So you must have a clear understanding of the job characteristic model. Compare and contrast the main ways jobs can be redesigned. How do you redesign jobs? How do you re-engineer jobs? Do jobs need to be re-engineered? So just to give you an example, when we talk about re-engineering of jobs, DHL had a major issue. One of the big problems with DHL, I might have mentioned it earlier in a different context, but DHL had a major issue that, many of one of the critical success factors for any courier company of that size is the quality of their drivers or the quality of people who drive goods across the country. And in this particular case, DHL had a large fleet of vehicles. They had a lot of drivers, and they would deliver parcels all across the United States. So they found that the attrition rate amongst the drivers was extremely high. And why was it extremely high? Because people were leaving at frequent intervals. So they put their minds together and they sort of tried to work on how attrition should be reduced. Okay, you want me to remove the pop-up, is it? Okay, I've got it. Okay, fine. Yeah, is it better now? The pop-up's gone?
Yes, sir.
There is one more in the right-hand corner on the top. So
yeah, but that's okay. No, that's not covering anything. That's me. I can see myself speaking.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it distracts you further, please tell me and I can remove it as well. So DHL, what did DHL do? DHL figured out that one of the reasons why their drivers were leaving was because they did not feel happy to load the trucks. So not only were they driving, but they were also loading. And this sort of created a bit of an issue. So DHL did the obvious thing. They said they separated the driving and the loading part. And they said that you don't have to sort of load the vehicle, you only need to drive, and attrition rates went up. A simple thing, but then they could redesign the job. And that is what is called redesigning jobs. And you should be cognizant of how it is done. What are the job elements? What are the job characteristics? And what motivates people and what demotivates people? So what are the kind of work arrangements that we have? Say working from home, telecommuting as it's called, and so on and so forth. Of course, now all of you have got an overdose, I think, of working from home. And then you can see the alternatives, either working from office or working from home. Give examples of employee involvement measures and show how they can motivate other employees. Demonstrate how the different types of variable pay programs. So variable pay, I think when Sunil Joshi, I think he's there on this, I talked to him, I was telling him that, variable pay actually came from experiment done in the United States more than 100 years back by a gentleman called B.F. Skinner on rats. And he showed conclusively that when you vary the reward for a rat in terms of food, that is cheese or whatever, the rat seemed to be more energetic and worked harder to get that cheese. And so then it was brought in, and it also seems to have shown that human beings approach it in a similar manner. Human beings seem to work harder when you vary their pay. I want your thoughts on that as we go forward, and show how flexible benefits turn benefits into motivators. Identify the motivational benefits of intrinsic rewards. Intrinsic rewards are, of course, not money, not a title, not a big car, not a big office, but more in terms of recognition, more in terms of how you sort of reward the team, and so on and so forth. So intrinsic rewards versus extrinsic rewards is something that you should keep in mind while drawing up compensation packages. An intrinsic reward can be a good culture. So you have a good culture at the workplace, that is an intrinsic reward, as against getting more money. So would you sacrifice more money for a bad culture? Is something that you have to answer for yourself. Um, so what do you guys think? Would you sacrifice more money? Would you sacrifice a good culture for more money? No?
No.
Okay.
So if you look
Yes.
at today's if you look at today's millennials, their focus has been more in terms of the culture and good uh, uh, organizational culture, great rewards and stuff like that, rather than money. Primarily because they are in a generation where their parents have been already working and making all the money, and probably it was the grandparents who were really doing the hard work. I mean, of course, their parents are also doing the hard work, but they already set the base. So money is not the factor for them. But probably people of an earlier generation, where job market has been a difficult factor. I mean, culture probably was not the most important thing they looked at. I mean, they looked at more of the money factor because they had to feed a family rather than. I mean, so it depends from people to people as to what they really need and what stage of their career they are in, to make that choice.
Okay. But if you look at millennials, or if you look at people who are sort of uh, 21 to 23, 24, what they seem to really value is work-life balance. So in a sense, you're right. They look at better culture, better work-life balance. They don't want to be stuck like us in the office. For us, for at least my generation, career was very important. We needed to hang around in a job. You're right. We needed to provide for the family because we came through very difficult economic times, and so on and so forth. I remember very clearly that when I finished my 12th standard, I was very interested in being a history professor, and my dad clearly told me that history professors don't earn too well, so you might like to reconsider. And then this whole I took an entrance exam and got into a place in Bombay where I studied marine engineering and navigation. So things are different. So called do whatever your passion. So today I hear this very often: follow your passion and do what you are passionate about. Many people are not passionate about anything. So what do? They don't do anything. So in our times, the reward was very important. What kind of reward you got? You would sacrifice some amount of culture and so on. Today things are different. Today people want to sort of have a better work-life balance. They want to have a better so-called quote-unquote quality of life, and that's how it is. And so you're right, generation to generation things are changing. So this is a very important model, the 5 core job dimensions, the job characteristic model. So you're talking about skill variety, so degree to which the job incorporates a number of different skills and talents. So you can always see the why do I really love my professorial job? Because I can bring in a lot of different skills and talents. I am not restricted in any way. And jobs that don't allow, the jobs that are not creative, jobs that do not allow you to bring in different skills and talents tend to be difficult, or tend to demotivate people. Eventually, everybody wants to bring their skills and talents to the table. So any job that allows people to bring in their different skills and talents is intrinsically a motivator. Otherwise, it can get very boring and become a demotivator. So that's very important. In the task identity, degree to which the job requires the completion of a whole and identifiable piece of work. So you should be able to see the job from start to finish. Suppose you go into a job and then you are given a small piece of work, like say in an assembly line, car manufacturing plant. If the only job you do, I showed you a clip from Charlie Chaplin, the only job he did was tightening nuts and bolts. Obviously, he went insane after some time because it can be highly demotivating. Now, task identity is, can you see a job from start to finish? Do you have some amount of part to play? Just imagine, suppose you're a carpenter and all you had to do for the rest of your life is to make one leg of a table rather than making the entire leg table together. Now, it might be more efficient if you keep making one leg, but then the job can become highly demotivating as against if you're given a brief to manufacture the entire table. So task identity is degree to which the job requires the completion of a whole and identifiable piece of work. So that's very important. The task significance. What is the impact of your particular job? So the common question that I keep asking is, in a hospital, who do you think is more motivated? The doctor, the nurse, or the head of security? In an establishment like ours, that is a university, who is more motivated? The professor or somebody in the clerical side, so there are various clerical positions, administrative positions as well. So who is more motivated? So the dean is an administrative position. So would I be happier administering, or would I be happier sort of teaching? So that's a question that is very interesting. So the task significance, where do I have greater impact, is very important. And then autonomy identifies how much freedom and independence the worker has with the job. What is the level of freedom you have in deciding things, making decisions, charting out a path, creating strategy is very important. How much of freedom you have. The less freedom you have, the more demotivating it is. The greater freedom you have, the more motivating it is. And then, of course, feedback, how much the job generates direct and clear information about the worker's position. So again, a professorial job is great because I get instant feedback. I know by student reaction whether the class is going well or not. And that is what makes my job so interesting. It's not the most lucrative job on the surface of the earth, but it is highly motivating and extremely interesting because the job dimensions are so skewed towards motivational factors. So skill variety, this is a very important model. Whenever you take a job or look at a job or your subordinates are complaining, look at the job dimensions, and I'm sure you will get an answer as to what the problem is. And then you might have to re-engineer like DHL did. So skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback are very, very important parts of a job. Any questions? No? Okay, so I want to show you a quick video, and then I want you to tell me which that video, so note down these 5 dimensions: skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback, and tell me if you recognize some of these dimensions in this speech. This is a man, I don't know whether I showed you the speech, but anyway, we'll have a look at it. But this is a man who is extremely popular. Yeah, so just hold on for a minute, please. Yeah, this man is extremely popular, and we listen to the speech. Might be a little grainy, slight grainy noise in the back, but it's fine. Yeah. So this is the great General George Patton lecturing to his Third Army just before they go into battle. This is the battle. This is the final stages of World War II, where they're fighting to enter Germany. And this man, of course, has been known as the greatest general of World War II. and extremely successful. He won everything, and he's giving a speech. So tell me if it is motivational. Tell me what characteristics of a good job do you recognize here? Yeah, can you see the slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can see.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Okay, so that was George Patton, general. He was 4-star general. He's a very funny guy. He designed his own uniform. That uniform was not standard US military issue. He designed his own uniform. He used to dress the way he liked. He was extremely arrogant, but he was very, very good at his job. And that was the speech that he gave to his Third Army before they went into, took on the Germans. What aspects of this do you see in that speech? Can you identify some of the aspects that you see here, there?
Significance of the task.
Absolutely, significance of the task. He says, at least you won't have to say that you were shoveling shit in Louisiana. A very funny moment. He said, you're doing something really important. Very good. Good.
Identity of the task.
Identity.
The task identity. Okay. So absolutely, he's very clear about what he wants. Yes. What else?
Autonomy as well, because
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
autonomy.
So a certain amount of autonomy, yes. He says we won't be hanging on to anything. We will be advancing all the time, and that's the job you have to do. Yeah. What else?
Feedback, sir.
Feedback. So the general idea is that you see all these aspects in this particular speech that he gave. And of course, George C. Scott played that role extremely well. He was a legendary actor. He mentioned something else that was very important. Did anybody catch on to that? Something that was really important and something that Indians actually keep forgetting all the time. What is that?
He gave full freedom to their soldiers.
Yes, he gave full freedom. Yes. No, I said he made a mention of something really important. What was that? What?
He said we should not die for freedom. We should make the other person dead.
Absolutely. I think that's very American. I think very pragmatic. He says that you don't win a war by dying for your country. You win it by making the other guy die for his country, which is very, very pragmatic and very realistic. Yes. What else?
He was talking about job satisfaction. Like after 30 years, so what exactly you feel when you do the job perfect?
Yes, he was talking about job satisfaction. Something else that he really mentioned that really strikes a chord.
He was mentioning that you can tell your grandson when you are sitting and
yeah. True.
We are fighters. That I think that was one thing.
Yeah, so he said that he laid the overarching role for an American very clearly. He said that we like to win. We always win because we don't like to lose. That was very clearly put. What else? There was something in the middle that he mentioned that is very interesting.
It's like if someone has shot out, they're like our brothers.
Go after them. Yes.
Go after them.
Even today,
yes.
in our groups, we still
He was saying to catch their nose and kick them.
So, there are two people speaking at the same time.
They're still remembered and loved.
Best food, best spirit, something like that.
Absolutely. Who said that?
Jasveer.
Absolutely right, Jasveer. That is something very American again. He said we have the best food, we have the best equipment, we have the best resources, we have the best spirit, we have the best personnel. And so he was talking about resources. Many times in India, I have seen over my career that we forget that resources are a critical part of success. And if you don't have the right resources, you don't have the right team, you can't succeed. And here he was laying it out very clearly. He said, why will we succeed? we will succeed for various reasons. One of the more important reasons for us to succeed is that we have got the best equipment in the world, the best spirit, the best, soldiers, and so on and so forth. So the resources part, he very clearly spelled out. And in that sense, it was very motivational, because now his troops know that they are not fighting with their backs to the wall, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about that? Yeah. So how can, shall we continue, or are there any doubts on this?
Continue.
Yeah. So how can jobs be redesigned? So if you find that there is a problem with some of these characteristics, some ways of redesigning jobs are what are called as job rotation. You all know what is job rotation. People are moved from one job to another job. So that, how does job rotation help?
It improves their skills in different places.
So pretty obvious. It improves their skills in different places. It gives them a certain amount of autonomy. It allows them to exercise their creativity and so on. So job rotation is very important. Of course, job rotation has certain problems, because job rotation, you can't rotate. So for example, in an aircraft, you can't rotate a flight steward into a pilot's chair. So you have some restrictions. In a university, it's very difficult to rotate a staff member into a professor's chair. And then, so job rotation has its limitation, but nevertheless, it's a very interesting way of reskilling people or giving them an opportunity to learn new skills. And then you have job enrichment. Job enrichment is interesting. Job enrichment is you increase the responsibility level of a person. So for example, somebody, say if you take a hotel, there is a person who is doing room service, that is laying out the sheets, changing the towels, changing the, doing all that kind of stuff in a room service, housekeeping rather. And how would you job enrich this person? Suppose you are the hotel manager, what kind of initiatives you might take to enrich this person's job?
Reward him basis on the customer feedback about the housekeeping service.
No, that's a reward. That's a reward. That's a reward. I'm talking about enrichment.
I mean, let him decide how he wants to go about his job and what should be a good outcome. He can decide which rooms he wants to do on which day. He can decide what is the color, what kind of materials he needs to use. So he takes the decision in terms of what or how he wants to do the rooms, and and then kind of delivers on those decisions.
Maybe if facilities are available, so the facility which he was working previously, so we can shift him to some good facility which is more in reach in the space, something like that, and he can do his work in that area, some shifting like that.
Okay. What else? How do you enrich somebody's job? I gave you an example. So you are affecting the service standards. If you allow him to sort of, just imagine, suppose you go to a McDonald's and then similar situation, the guy who's making the burger, suppose you give him that much of freedom, it will destroy their, standard system of operational efficiencies of having very standardized ways of using a burger. So you might like to be a little careful. No, that is not what job enrichment is. Anybody else? I've not heard any of.
We can give them good uniforms and
No, these are all very basic rewards. These are kind of hygiene factors in Herzberg's two-factor theory. Job enrichment is the expansion of a job. That is the key. Expand. How do you expand his job?
We can provide him more autonomy in terms of freedom in the way he operates.
That might start affecting your service standards.
Professor, in that case, we have to teach him new skill set.
Absolutely, that's the point. How do you teach him new skills?
We have to train him according to his will. Like if he likes some other area, we can give him training for that, or on-job experience, or guide to handle him, something like that.
Okay. What else?
Or else we can give some challenging task, so that he can come up with his own idea and execute it, so that freshen his mind and he can.
So is it possible as a job enrichment initiative to sometimes place this guy in the front office in the reception? If the guy is really smart and wants to be reskilled, is it possible to give him some time off from his regular job of housekeeping and place him in the front office in the reception area?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If he is interested, definitely.
No, if he's proving himself in that particular job, then definitely there's.
Yeah, so that is how job enrichment is done. You hang on to your old job, but then you are given forays into new, more challenging jobs, or jobs that have a bigger impact, and then you don't get rewarded for it monetarily. You get rewarded for it because your skill levels are improving and you're learning. So organizations also do that. They say, you have this job. Would you like to take on additional responsibility so that you can learn new skills? I'm sure all of you have gone through this process. Yeah. And then you take the new job and then you sort of learn new things. And so that is what is called job enrichment. You must understand that any of these initiatives, there is no extrinsic reward, no extra money is thrown in. It's just that you are given an opportunity to redesign your own job or learn new skills, which is a set of the job characteristic model. Yeah? So strengths of job rotation helps managers in scheduling. So now, why does it help managers in scheduling? Because you've got greater flexibility. So there is a guy who can do multiple jobs, and then you can sort of move into different areas, and it gives the whole system certain amount of flexibility. Reduces boredom because you're always challenged and you're thinking of new stuff. You don't do things mechanically anymore. Increases understanding of work contribution. So as you understand more and more about the full picture, you understand how people are contributing differently. So there was an instance when, as you know, India occupies the Siachen Glacier, and the army had ordered for winter was coming in, and they had ordered for some extra clothing. Warm clothing, and that was shot down by the Ministry of Defense, and so the Finance Ministry and so on in Delhi. And that point of time, you had a gentleman called George Fernandes. George Fernandes, as a Mangalorean, he was the defense minister. And George Fernandes actually got a set of IAS officers, the people who had denied these uniforms, and he sent them to the Siachen Glacier for 1 week. He said, all of you go to Siachen Glacier, stay there for 1 week with the army and come back. And no message was, that's all. That was all they needed to do. And when they came back, they had a better understanding of what was the ground realities of sitting on the Siachen Glacier and working there. And so they quickly released all the budget required for the uniforms. So when you do different things, you increase understanding of work contribution. Incidentally, George Fernandes was a union leader, and then he went on to become a defense minister, so on and so forth. So it was an interesting time, and it leads to increased skills. So so what does job rotation do again? Helps manage scheduling because of flexibility. Obviously, it reduces boredom. It increases understanding of work contribution. because you get a better picture of what really the whole scheme of things are. And then it increased skill level. You have increased skills. So that's what job rotation does. And it's a good motivation tool. So job enrichment. How do you do job enrichment? You combine tasks, you form natural work units, you establish client relations, you expand jobs vertically, you open feedback channels. So like I said, job rotation allows you to do more difficult jobs while holding on to your existent or incumbent job. Like I said, you might be in housekeeping, but then they might also allow you to stay in the reception area, or they might allow you to handle the cash and so on. So you have different jobs too. So combine tasks, form natural work units, establish client relations, expand jobs vertically, open feedback channels. So these are two very important things: job enrichment and job rotation. I hope you have a clear understanding as connected to the job characteristic model and job re-engineering or redesign. You can also have, again, alternative work arrangements. You can have flexi times. All of you know what flexi times are. Flexi times are, so when I was director of HR in my last university, I had introduced flexi time. Normal time was 9 to 5. Here you could come at 11 and go at 7. Very interesting, yeah. So some faculty wanted to come at 11 o'clock and leave at 7 o'clock. You could come also at 9 o'clock and leave at 5 o'clock. You could come at, say, 6 o'clock and leave at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock. So there was a core time in which you had to be at your table, but otherwise you had certain amount of flexi time. And then you had job sharing. Job sharing allows 2 or more individuals to split a traditional 40 hours a week job. So job sharing, I don't know how many of you are familiar. Are you familiar with job sharing? Any of you gone through job sharing?
No, sir, only when there is a critical deadline, the team members could not be able to complete it. So only then we will pursue and we will share the work.
So in a traditional sense, job sharing is what happens on oil rigs and things like that, where people work for 2 weeks. So you work for 2 weeks on the oil rig and then you go home for another 2 weeks. So another set of people will come and work. So how this works is that, you work for only 6 months in a year and you get paid for 6 months. So your organization is paying only for 1 year. That is, they're paying for the normal process of one person, but actually 2 people are occupying the same job. So you work for only 6 months. The other 6 months you're on leave or you're free to do whatever you like. You can sleep at home or go on holiday and things like that. Many organizations function like that. So you're sharing a job. 2 people are sharing the same job, and there's only one person paid. But then it gives you a lot of flexibility. And work-life balance is very, very strong because you can spend time with your family and so on and so forth. The shipping industry also worked like that, where you got a big salary, but you got paid for 6 months. Another 6 months you had leave. And then they used to throw in a bonus for a couple of months or so. So generally people ended up getting paid for about 8 months. But then that was how it was. Telecommuting is, of course, working from home. Now it's gone out of the window. Now it looks like many of you might be permanently working from home. So that whole thing about working from home has lost its novelty. 3 days in a week you could work from home. I think now we are defining new methods of working from home. I always looked at working from home a bit suspiciously, but now I think people are getting more serious. And do you think this COVID pandemic has altered the way we work from home? What is your point of view?
Yes, Professor.
Yeah, the productivity has gone up.
Productivity has gone up, okay.
I guess family work-life balance is much better compared to before.
Okay, okay.
Significant reduction and.
The question I'm asking is, suppose 2 years back you were working from home. Is this working from home any different from that working from home?
Yes, sir. It is very different.
Yeah, it is.
Why?
So the expectation has increased a lot, and the work hours have increased, and people are like in an assumption or in the mood, like as we are working from home, they can extend or they can be flexible. So earlier, that kind of assumption or mindset was not there because you used to take work from home for a day or say for 2 days max. So in our organization, work from home was not allowed earlier, and now we are working for more than 10 to 11 hours. So it is becoming really difficult.
And I think bosses also have become a bit more ruthless, I think.
Yeah. This is my experience actually.
See, there is a lot of traditional organizations which worked where work from home was never believed to be an option. I mean, something like, operations or contact centers where people had to sit in office and had to come. In fact, there were situations where, during strikes and all, and people had to actually stay back in office and do their shifts and go. Now, these people are working from home. So that certainly is a very, very big difference. Both from a technology standpoint as well as managing people's standpoint, and it is evolving by the day. I mean, like initially people were doing a lot of people were naturally stretching. I mean, you don't really have to tell people that do your 9 hours job. I mean, because they were sitting at home and the bedroom becomes doubles up as the office as well. People didn't really realize that they are losing that chunk, and they were also utilizing the time which they were taking for otherwise, getting ready to office and go to, use the transport and all. These were all excess time which they were saying, which they were utilizing in work. But now slowly we are seeing burnouts or, people feeling that pinch. And I think it is going to further evolve with, newer set of rules, and there will be slowly some kind of focus on work, home kind of balance in the near future. That's where it is evolving slowly but steadily.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And I think it's right. I think the novelty has gone of the whole work from home. I think it's a new normal in the sense, the new practice. It's a paradigm shift. You'll see more and more people working from home. For example, Google has announced that people don't have to come to the office till July 2021. Twitter has said that lifetime work from home. So we are seeing new ways of working, and this is really going to alter how we look at life and how we look at work. Yeah. So social and physical context of work. Social context, something that all of you must be feeling since many of you are not going to work. Some social characteristics that improve job performance include interdependence. When you work in teams and so on, you have social support. Remember that people lived in tribes, and we got a lot of social support from each other. You go back to the Indian village, you will again see the tribes where people operate, in certain castes, communities, and so on and so forth. Interaction with other people outside of work is also very important. So working from home or some of these other measures might affect the social context. It's very interesting how people are going to deal with the social context. How are they going to simulate this and make people more comfortable? The physical context, the work context will also affect employee satisfaction. Work that is hot, loud, and dangerous is less satisfying. Work that is controlled, relatively quiet, and safe will be more satisfying. You might have an office setting. Now you have to work from home, which might be a noisy place. Your wife might be doing something. Your husband might be doing something. Your children might be doing something. All of you are together. It could work well because it improves your work-life balance. It could also be detrimental because it is very noisy and distracting. What do you guys think about that? Is working from home sometimes noisy and distracting? Does it affect your work in any way?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, of
Yes, Professor.
Yeah. So
a lot of it. When it be a night shift and all.
Maybe a night shift and things like that. Yes. So good. So so everything is not hunky dory. While we are evolving new ways of working, there are going to be issues. For example, we have got used to the habit of splashing the sanitizer on our hands and rubbing it vigorously. I don't know what effect it would have on the skin condition of our hands as we go forward. people have not figured out yet whether it's really affecting us in some ways. Yeah. So anything that we do seems to have some detrimental side effects, and we'll have to watch as we go forward as to what are some of these detrimental side effects. While we try to correct something, we might cause imbalances in some other area. Yeah. And then you've got employee involvement, of course. Employee involvement is a participative process that uses employee. So obviously, you have things like quality circles, you have safety committees, you have clubs, you have small organizations within your workplace, all because you want to improve a sense that the employee feels wanted, he wants to be involved, he wants to sort of feel that he's part of the group. Remember that human beings have evolved as hunter-gatherers. The only way that hunter-gatherers survived was when they were part of a group, and that's a very primordial way of thinking that is deeply ingrained in our DNA. So we want to be part of a group. We want to belong in some sense. You must be mentally very tough if you go against that grain. So involving people in activities, in groups is very important for them to feel wanted and motivated. So employee involvement, and then you have participative management, representative part. What is representative participation? Give me an example of representative participation.
Unions, trade unions.
Very good. Excellent. Who said this?
Vijay here.
Vijay, you went to the top of the class today. So trade unions are very representative participation. So you can have a trade union leader sitting in your selection process. So if you go to say a company like Toyota Kirloskar, Maruti Suzuki, when somebody selects people to the organization, you can have a trade union representative sitting there. So that is representative participation. The parliament has reserved seats. I'm sure you are aware of that. They have reserved seats for, say, the Anglo-Indian community. They have reserved seats for other communities. They have reserved seats for affirmative action, and so on and so forth. This is representative participation. The United States has representative participations for, say, Red India, for ethnic Indians, or ethnic Americans, sorry, and also for blacks, Hispanics, and so on and so forth. So you can have representative participation is very important so that people feel included. That's the point. You need to make people feel included as far as they want to be included. So you want pressurize somebody to be included, but you can give them an opportunity to feel included. Yeah. So those are some ways in which you can improve employee involvement. You use rewards to motivate employees. Of course, reward is a very big thing, and you establish a pay structure, you establish variable pay programs, and so on and so forth. So these are some ways in which employees can be motivated. You'll have to take this in conjunction with, of course, the motivational theories that we talked about. Herzberg's theory. We talked about Bandura's self-efficacy theory. We talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We talked about McClellan's theory of needs, and many such theories. So with those are theoretical models, you'll have to take the practical part of how do you implement some of these things along with the job characteristic model and some of the other ways in which we can motivate people to come to work. Importantly, this is very, very clear when you have people coming for jobs. You must have extrinsic motivators and intrinsic motivators. Extrinsic motivators are a good office, a good pay, a good a designation, nice perks, and so on. Intrinsic motivators are a good culture, a good team, a good. So, for example, Google allows, before a person joins Google, allows the participant and the interviewee and the team to meet each other to see that they're both comfortable with each other. The interviewee must be comfortable with the team must be comfortable with the interview. It's a fantastic way of doing things. But Google is a rich company, they can have the luxury of doing it. I wouldn't say everybody has that luxury. So, compensation is both about intrinsic and extrinsic. I want to stop there with this chapter. I hope you have a fair understanding of motivation. Yeah. Any questions? So we'll start off with so we're moving on to foundations of group behavior. What is a group? Any idea what's a group?
Set of people.
Set of people. Okay. Anybody else? What's a group?
People with similar characteristics.
People with Kritika, you said that, is it? People similar characteristics? Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. What else is a group? How do you define a group?
Set of people like working for a common goal.
Set of people working for a common goal, PT, okay.
Set of people with different skills.
It's a two or more individuals interacting each other.
Okay, but you're still missing that fundamental one point, which defines groups. All this is correct. What is that one single important point that you're missing out?
The collaboration.
Collaborations.
Okay, collaborating. Okay. What else?
It's a number of people, more than two, which are connected due to some reason. It may be probably a number of people put in one place, or there is a common reason behind it, or
what is that common reason called? What is it called? You're right. What is that common reason called?
Goal.
They are dependent to each other, sir.
Yeah. So it is two or more people who come together with a common goal. Yeah. So the common goal is a very important thing. Unless you have a common goal, you can't be called a group. So group is also the start of teams. Let's look at what happened to this slide. Yeah. After studying this chapter, you should be able to define groups and distinguish different types of groups, identify the 5 stages of group development. We'll go through that quickly. Demonstrate how norms and status affect influence individuals' behavior. So norms, what are norms? Any idea? What are norms?
Standards.
Normal rules.
Standards, protocol.
Standards.
Yeah. These are ways in which people, rules which are not really written down. Yeah. So norms are expected norms of behavior. So how many of you are allowed to turn up in your office in, say, shorts?
No chance.
No chance. So that's have they written it in your contract that you can't come to office in shorts?
Yes, Professor.
Yes.
They wrote it in your contract, is it? You can't come.
In the policy they have mentioned, in the policies.
They especially mentioned you can't come in shorts.
No, it's not especially mentioned. It's like a norm.
So it's a norm. So can you use abusive language? See, like General George Patton, he used a lot of abusive words. Can you use it at your workplace?
No,
yes, in our mind only.
No, sir.
So most organizations would not allow it. Say, for example,
there are some organizations, American organizations specifically, in their code of conduct, abusive language is clearly said that you cannot use it.
Yeah.
So there are organizations which have that as a rule as well.
Maybe, but generally the organizations don't. So, for example, on board ships, language was very colorful. It was as colorful as the way the general was speaking. But say in an academic institution like ours, you need to be very careful how you speak to other people, and so on and so forth. So, any abusive language is not acceptable, although it is not mentioned in our service rules or standard operating procedure. It is the norms that sort of dictate how you might behave yourself, unless of course they explicitly stated in your work rules and contract, and so on and so forth. So in some place, so in say in the army, language can be very colorful. In academic institution, no. IT companies, I really don't know. I mean, for the very short time that I was there in an IT company, I sort of saw that you need to be very careful how you spoke and things like that. So it's very interesting. But please understand that in group behavior, the norms are very important, and you must learn the norms quickly. And the norms are part of the organization culture. So that is why it is so difficult. When you pick up one kind of a culture, when you shift organizations, you might have to deal with new norms and new practices. So, that might be a little bit of a problem. What is the ideal group size when you function as a group? What is your ideal group size is important. Is it 10? Is it 15? Is it 20? Is it 2? What is a ballpark figure for a good group size for you to be effective? Why are large groups problematic? Are some things that we should look at? What are the benefits and disadvantages of cohesive? So groups are supposed to be cohesive. You understand group cohesion, right? Are cohesive groups good? What's your take? Do you need to be cohesive, or you bond well?
Yes, sir. Can give better results.
Yeah. So group cohesion is very important. Too much of group cohesion can also be problematic. We'll see how and why. Compare the effectiveness of interacting, brainstorming, and so on. So we'll look at some of these things as we go along. Right now, we take a quick break, please. We'll come back.
Yes.
Or we'll go to 10:45 and then we'll take a break.
Yeah, that will be good, sir. Yeah.
That'll be good, huh?
We'll go for 11.
Okay, there's some conflict in the group. Okay, so when you define and classify groups, so some of the definitions of groups are two or more individuals interacting independent who have come together to achieve particular objectives. You have formal groups and you have informal groups. Anybody a part of any informal? We all know what are formal groups, yeah? You have an organization, you have departments, you have verticals, you're in marketing, finance, HR, production, quality control, and so on and so forth. Informal groups. Any of you are part of informal groups? Are you part of some smokers club, book club, cycling club, jogging club, some ethnic club? All the Bengalis get together, or all the Tamilians get together, or all the Malayalis get together, things like that. So these are informal groups. Are any of you part of any informal groups?
No, sir.
No? My God, how is that possible? You're not part of any group, some sport.
I'm part of a bikers club, sir.
Bikers club. Yeah, that's an informal group. Yeah.
Cycling group, the running club.
Yeah, right. Some cycling group. Smoker. You don't have a smokers group who go out and outside the gate and smoke and come back. Yeah. These are very effective groups. Yeah. Drinkers group is even more effective. They exchange a lot of secrets. They're very close to each other, and they get a lot of jobs done. So people who go and play golf, that's an informal group. A lot of work is done there as well. Yeah. So you have formal groups, you have informal groups. And then you have, command groups, these are all kind of very straightforward. Friendship groups, interest groups in informal groups. Like I said, you have cycling, you have jogging, you have smoking, you have drinking, you have book reading, and so on and so forth, which are more informal, more of friendship based. And then formal groups are command groups, that is a group that composed of the individuals who report directly to a given manager. Task groups, those working together particular. So for example, the group that went into, say, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, POK, to in a sense take revenge for the Uri attacks, was a task group. It's a task force. They put it together to accomplish a specific task, and then they go in, and then they finish, come out, and then they disband, and they go to the particular units. So these are different kinds of formal groups that we might have. Yeah. So why do people join groups? Of course, social identity is very important. Please understand again, like I mentioned, the DNA, our DNA is fairly robustly imprinted with how we have evolved. Human beings have always been social animals. We have been part of tribes, we have been part of clans, we have been part of communities, we have been part of so many other things. And then they want to belong. You want to belong, so you join groups. So similarity, distinctiveness, status, uncertainty reduction. So you have certain amount of uncertainty reduction. Suppose you say, I am the president of my condominium's management committee. It is not something great, but then you feel important. I was the president of the managing committee of my condominium, of my set of apartments. So that's a status. You feel different, distinctive. I am going to be part of a club in which I won't allow everybody. So only, and then they will have these fancy badges, tags, and so on and so forth, and say that I am different from you. In the sense, why am I different from you? Because you can't gain entry into my club, and it makes it very distinctive. So, for example, these are the IIM fraternity, IIM alumni clubs, very strong, distinctive, because everybody can't get into them. And then people who are inside a particular group are similar in some senses. So you can see here, all these are ladies. They are part of a distinctive group. So these are the reasons why people want to form groups. And of course, as they evolve, they will form teams. But at the moment, let us stay with the group. Before we take a break, I'll just quickly go through the 5 stages of group development model. So you have the pre-stage where people are going all over the place, and then you have forming, you have storming. That is the forming stage. They all come together. Storming is generally involves certain amount of arguments, disagreements, and so on and so forth. And then you have once the storming is done, you establish some amount of norms. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to behave. This is how we're going to dress. This is how we're going to address it. So you come to the charter. You have a charter, and then you have group norms for a particular group, and then you have performing. You perform. You start after you finish the storming and the norming stages. You hopefully start performing, and eventually, after you finish the task, you adjourn. This is typical group formation. Some of you must have seen this in your own groups. I see it all the time, where sometimes groups have serious problems in coming together because the storming part is so deeply imprinted, and you can't get from the storming to the norming stages, and the group collapses. But if you can, then you go from storming to norming, where you set up a charter, you set up rules, you set up the way you're going to behave and perform, and then you set up performance standards as well, and then you perform, and then you finally adjourn. So, folk, I'm going to stop there while we're going for a break. Any questions you have? Akshay, Hiremat, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't believe I've got your video.
Sorry, sir. You want me to switch on my video?
No. Your video for assignment 1, have you sent it?
Yes, sir.
I haven't seen it. Can you send it again, please?
Yeah, definitely, sir.
So some of you have been graded a little lower because I have not seen your video for assignment 1.
I sent it to your first mail ID, sir. I'll send it again.
Can you please send it again so
Yes, sure.
I can have a look at it? Yeah.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back in about. I'll restart at 11 o'clock. You can take a short break. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Sure, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Recording. So we're talking about the 5-stage group development model. Let's move on. So forming, members feel much uncertainty. Storming, lots of conflict between members of the group. Norming, members have developed close relationship among and cohesiveness. Performing, the group is finally fully functional. Adjourning, in temporary groups characterized by concern with wrapping up activities rather than performance. So this is how the model is, and we can go. So there's an alternative model for group formation. It's called the punctuated equilibrium model. This might also be kind of very familiar because you might actually be going through some of this. So say when I give you an assignment initially, you have first meeting and then there's a phase of inertia. Nothing happens till about 50% of the time. And then there is some people then realize that, half the time is gone. So there's some rapid activity and then you start entering. Again, there's a plateau. Nothing happens for another about 30% of the time. And then towards the end, the group lifts itself and tries to complete the task. But the problem here is that at phase 2, if there's a failure and you can't come together, then the whole assignment collapses. So, but many groups operate like this in the punctuated equilibrium model. So the sequence of actions is that in the first stage, you're setting group direction. In the first phase of inertia, that is the phase 1, the flat line. That's first phase of inertia. Then there's halfway point transition, and then you have a major change, and then you have second phase of inertia, and then you have accelerated activity towards the end. So if this accelerated activity doesn't happen, you won't have a problem. So, but unfortunately, many groups behave like this, and hence there is an instance of failure, because if you don't pick yourself up towards the end, there is going to be a problem. So we've seen two models. One is the norming, storming, etc., the group developmental model, and then you have the punctuated equilibrium model. So these are two models that occur in group formation.
So can you please move back to the previous slide, if you don't mind, for a minute?
Which slide?
The previous one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So what are some group properties? So when you're talking about what are the properties of group and how does it affect group performance, we have things like, say, cohesiveness, what kind of roles people play, what are the norms within a group, what is the group status, and what is size. So we'll sort of delve with some of them. So some of you said that cohesiveness is very important. Cohesiveness is how well does a group bond, and some group bonds, and then you sort of felt that if your group bonds better or there's a higher degree of cohesiveness, then it seems to work better. The problem is that while bonding is important and cohesiveness is important, too much of cohesiveness can also cause problems. And it was classically displayed in what is called as the, there are two very interesting cases. One is called the Nut Island effect. The Nut Island effect is, it's a Nut Island is off Boston Harbor. And there was a series of experiments done there in a group of people who were running their sewage treatment plant and how they really behaved. So we won't bother so much about that. We'll talk about another important case, which dealt with the Exxon Valdez. The Exxon Valdez was an oil tanker which sort of sank in the Bering Straits of Alaska, of the Alaskan coast, about 25 years ago, and it came as a major surprise because this was an oil tanker belonging to the Exxon company, which is one of the biggest companies in the world at that point in time. It sank, and then when the inquiry happened, they found that the team was very cohesive. They were all very well trained, well knit group of people. But what came out was that the captain was a drunkard, and it so happened that when the ship was leaving Anchorage Port, bound for Long Beach, California, the captain did not surface at all, or he seems to have come up to the bridge navigating area, and then he left. And then he went down and he left the navigating part to a very young officer, which is totally against the rules. And then the young officer went to sleep, even worse, because he was very tired because of the previous 2-3 days of work. He had had very little sleep. He went to sleep. And the long and short of it was that the ship crashed against a sandbank and broke into two. It spilled 58,000 tons of crude oil into the Bering Straits. It destroyed flora and fauna. The damage has been irreparable. What was very surprising was when it came to the inquiry, people still said that the captain was a very good guy and they would like to work with him. So everybody was puzzled. But that is what excessive cohesiveness does. And then did they know he was a drunkard? Answer is absolutely yes. Everybody knew he was a drunkard. Nobody reported him. So unfortunately, when you have too much of bonding and too much of cohesiveness, you overlook obvious faults and don't report them. So it can become detrimental to your group's performance. So cohesiveness is good. Too much of it is not good. And I think, so how do companies deal with this? So companies want to bond, they want to be together, but how do they prevent this excessive cohesiveness? What is your point of view? How do you think companies should take care of this? Hello.
So by doing job rotation, or so that same people doesn't come in a same group for a longer duration.
Okay, job rotation may be one part of the whole. What else?
Manager should have a meeting with all the groups at least once a week.
How does that help?
Like a husband and wife cannot work in the same project.
Okay.
Kind of policies, and even best friends cannot work in same team.
Okay, these are all very subjective ways of looking at it. What are the more constructive ways in which you can prevent excessive cohesiveness and leading to wrongdoing? All of you have policies in your organizations. At least the better organizations have some policies. What are those?
Diversity in group.
Okay, diversity is one way. Okay, fine. Diversity can prevent some amount of excessive cohesiveness. Okay, good. What else?
When we talk about diversity, it can be cultural diversity as well as gender diversity.
Okay, fair enough. What else? Give me a proactive, constructive way in which companies actually deal with this.
So,
Too much of cohesiveness.
having different hierarchical people in a team. So it's not like all of them are of the same level. So you have the freshers, you have the mid-level engineers, and then you have architects. So there's a
Okay.
gap in these skills.
Okay. Okay. So you're again trying to introduce certain amount of diversity by hierarchy. What else? What else?
Policies on code of conduct.
Yeah. What is that? I'm waiting for that answer. What is that policy called which prevents excessive cohesiveness? Okay, let me rephrase. What is that policy called which prevents you from obvious wrongdoing?
Sir, POSH.
Ethics.
Code of conduct.
Ethics.
POSH is one thing, yes. What else?
Like code of conduct or ethics.
No, not code of conduct.
IT rights. IT rights policy, sir, where we can't send out to other people a mail or the hardware or something like that. IT intellectual property policy.
What is it called? What is that? What is it actually? What is the policy? What is that policy that prevents wrongdoing? What, say for example, you had this company called Enron. Yeah, Enron was brought down by one person. What is that person called?
Whistleblower.
Absolutely right. The whistleblower policy. So, does your company have a whistleblower policy?
I haven't heard of it.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir,
is it something like, anybody can come and blow a whistle and he'll be safe and protected and in a anonymous? Are we talking about something like that?
No,
that's what the policy says. Whether they will be safe or not, I'm not sure. In India, it has not worked very well because somebody has leaked the name of the whistleblower. But in the United States and so on, whistleblowers are expected to be protected. Yeah. So the whistleblower policy is very important. You can carry out surprised audits and so on and so forth to prevent wrongdoing. But you must, if you have not heard of a whistleblower policy, go and please Google it, find out what it is. If your organization has a whistleblower policy, read it very carefully, because these are policies that are meant to prevent wrongdoing within your organization. Yeah. That is a method of preventing excessive cohesiveness. And then you've got roles, of course. Role is a set of expected behavior patterns attributed to someone occupying a given position. So what is the role that a person has to sort of play? So people play. So you can see a policeman. Once a policeman gets into a uniform, he starts behaving in a certain way. Once a military guy gets into uniform, he behaves in a certain way. Once there is a professor in a class, he or she behaves. So this is what is called as role expectation. How am I expected to behave in my particular role? And this is very important, because people take their roles extremely seriously. And how do they perceive their role? What is role expectation? So there was a very interesting experiment done. It's called Philip Zimbardo was a professor at Stanford University. He did an experiment called the Stanford Prison Experiment, wherein he took a group of students and he put them into he took the basement of their university, and then he created half the students into sort of he took half the students and he made half of them into prisoners like this, and the other half he made into guards. And then he created a prison in the basement and he left them. And he found that although this was a role play and it was not real, after a certain stage, the prisoners started behaving like real prisoners. That is, they started taking a lot of abuse and things like that. And the guards started behaving in an extremely harsh manner towards these prisoners. And they started treating them badly, started, turning physically violent and so on. So Zimbardo had to actually call off the experiment after about a week or 10 days. The point I'm trying to make is that people unfortunately take their roles extremely seriously. Please understand that, you must tell everybody that don't take your role very seriously. You might be playing one role today, you might be playing a different role tomorrow. So roles, but then people slip into their roles, and then they start, and you can have a lot of trouble, like Zimbardo showed in his Zimbardo's prison experiment. He set up a fake prison using student volunteers, randomly assigned student volunteers to guard and prisoner roles. Within 6 days, the experiment was halted due to the following concerns. Guard had dehumanized the prisoners. Prisoners were subservient, fell into their roles, they understood them. No real resistance. So, some of the people that I have seen who really fall into their roles are people like military personnel, people like police guys, and so on. So I used to teach a group of non-officer category of the Indian Army, and I used to throw them a very interesting question that, suppose you are the HR head of a company, and you see, you hear that there are a group of workers charging towards your office to beat you up with iron rods. What would you do? And the obvious answer, I think, in this particular case is to run for your life. But if you ask these military guys, they will say, the army guys, they will say that, look, I will stay, I will negotiate, because that's how they've been trained. And that is the role they have slipped into. So in groups, actually, you can get into roles, and you can sort of stop thinking clearly. So the point is that groups can give you roles. Groups can also make you very cohesive, which is not a great thing. Too cohesive, which is not a great thing. You must remember this Zimbardo's prison experiment. Go and look it up, please, and find out what it's all about. There are very nice YouTube videos on Zimbardo's prison experiment. Any questions here so far before we move on?
No, sir.
Okay. And then you have norms. You have different kinds of norms, that is, acceptable standards of behavior within a group that are shared by the group's members. So you have performance norms, you have appearance norms, you have what to wear, you have social arrangement norms, you have allocation of resources norms, and so on and so forth. So different norms that groups follow. I'm sure your groups also have some performance norms. For example, if you are a lazy set of guys and you have somebody who really performs well coming into your group, what do you think is going to happen?
It's going to motivate others also.
I don't think so. You're going to kick him out. So I see this all the time. That,
Right.
By and large in the class, you have a set of useless people, and they try to bring the bright people down to their own level of incompetence. So you have to be very careful if you're a manager, and you need to lift the performance norms. Otherwise, the set of people who are not performing will draw everybody down to their own useless level. Appearance norms, what to wear, may not be explicitly stated, but then you generally get an idea what to wear. Yeah, there are some companies like Google which say, you don't have to be in a suit to be serious. So that's the value system. They have said it explicitly and said that you don't have to be in a suit to be serious. That means they're not very concerned about what you wear as long as you perform well. And then you have social arrangement norms, and then you have friendship. Who can form friendship? Like somebody was saying, don't allow husband and wife. Now this is a social arrangement norm. Don't allow best friends. I don't know how far you can push that since we are a free country, but then that's how it is. Yeah. Okay, so groups, Hawthorne's studies, we just skip for the moment. There were some interesting experiments conducted, and one was the Ash study, and this is somewhere you have to be careful. So Ash actually did a series of experiments with a group of people. He what he did was that he got a set of people into a room. So he kind of yeah, 1 minute. He got people into a room. Say the room looked like this, and then he made rows of people. Yeah. He placed them. What he did was that he had amongst the participants in the room, some of them were his Ash's students. So he placed them strategically like this. One was here, one was here, one guy was here, one guy was there, one guy was there. And here was a board that Ash had placed, and he did something very interesting. He drew a line on the board. So the line looked like this, and then he drew 3 other lines beside it. So one line was like this. So let's call this line A. Then he had one line like this. Let's call this line B. And then he had another line like this. He called it line C. So this was the subject line, this one here. So he asked his people sitting here that now tell me which of these lines, this is say, they will call this line as X. So which of these lines A, B or C is the same length as A? And Ash now did not allow the group to answer. He asked this guy, what do you think? So it's pretty obvious to everybody that the line B is the same as the line A. Is the same as line X, sorry. But when he asked this fellow, he said, deliberately he gave a wrong answer. He said A is the same as X. Then Ash asked this chap, who also gave the same answer. Then Ash asked this fellow, same answer. Ash asked this guy, same answer. Then Ash asked this guy, same answer. So all these people did not talk about B, which is the right answer. They said A is equivalent to X. Then Ash went to the rest of the class who were unsuspecting. They did not know of this setup, that they had been set up. And eventually all of them said, yes, the correct answer is that A is equal to X, although they could all very clearly see that B was equal to X. This happens unfortunately in groups, and it is called as group think. It's a very dangerous phenomenon because you can get led up the garden path. If a certain set of people look at something with a point of view, everybody else falls into line. And that is why you have what is called as mob mentality. Mobs are very dangerous. That's why groups and mobs are very dangerous, because they lose their sense of proportion, they lose their sense of judgment, and they just start following the herd, and they do all sorts of peculiar things. So
is this the same as herd mentality?
Kind of, yes. Also the reason why mobs behave the way they behave. Yeah. So yeah, herd mentality, mob mentality. So Ash showed that groups can behave in this very dangerous manner called groupthink. And so this is a very important word, groupthink. Look it up, please, in terms of cognitive behavior. Sorry. Yeah, groupthink. So any questions here? How do you prevent groupthink? That is important. How do you prevent this groups to behave like this? So you have groupthinks in various areas. For example, the Nazis, Adolf Hitler, groupthink. Yeah. Hitler used to come up with an idea. Nobody had the courage to resist him. So go and do something funny.
Elections?
Good.
Anonymous?
Elections, yes, very good. Anonymous votes, okay, very good. What else? What is an obvious way? Suppose you find groupthink in a group of people. How can you prevent it? You're right. Elections, more democratic processes. But I'm looking.
If we
By splitting
encourage,
into small groups, splitting into still smaller groups.
Okay.
Resolving the group.
Yeah, Sundarajan, you were saying something. Go ahead.
encouraging people to come out and speak out.
Very good. Excellent. What is that called? So how do you put this into a process? How do you put this into a process?
Sir, individual feedbacks.
Okay, individual feedback. Okay. Before that, you can do something else.
Is it survey?
No.
One-on-one meetings, sir.
No. Anybody? None of the ladies are speaking. I don't know why, except for, I think, Preeti. How do you prevent this?
Sir, making them to get engaged with serious work, like.
Have you guys heard? Have you heard of this word?
Advocate.
Devil's advocate.
Devil's advocate. Yes. Devil's advocate.
One person in the group say, I want to go to a picnic to Banagata National Park. He'll say, no, let's go for a movie. And then he initiates a debate. He initiates a debate. He initiates a discussion so that you come up with a good idea, right? So otherwise, you will fall into something called as group think, right?
There was a story called The Emperor's New Clothes.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Tell me about it.
All right. So there's this emperor who loved good clothes and all. So there is a group of people who try to make a fool out of him by actually showing him that they are stitching, but it's all imaginary, and they make him wear almost nothing, right? So, but since there's a group think, everybody comes and praises that what a wonderful cloth and all. Emperor thinks. I think there was a story that whoever was not able to see those clothes was a fool. So though actually there was nothing, and the emperor knew that felt that there was nothing, he kind of still agreed that the clothes were good and all. The same happens with his subjects, but then there is one kid who eventually shouts, who's the devil's advocate, who eventually shouts that he's not wearing anything, which makes others also realize that actually everybody has been fooled.
So that is the devil's. So very good, Sundar. I think you sort of got it. But then what you should actually mention, this is a classic case of ethics. And if you go before the whole story, this emperor is a kind of guy who rules with an iron fist. So he has instilled fear, and that is what happens in organizations when the fear levels are very high. People are afraid to speak out, and then no devil's advocate is there. So everybody believes in a kind of a whatever one the leader says is correct, and then everybody falls into line. So so the ethical point of view is that don't introduce so much of fear that people are afraid to talk. And you're right, in this particular case, the emperor is so vain. He's such a vain guy that he always wants to be seen in new clothes. His subjects are poor people, and he is very proud about how he dresses and so on. And he's made an ass of. It is only for this small boy who realizes that the emperor is not wearing anything that he shouts out during the parade. And what happens to the boy? Actually, if you read the story, Hans Christian Andersen's story well, you will find that his father slaps him and says, "Shut up, because you're going to get us all into trouble." That is a classic case of how organizations function, where there is fear perpetuating in the culture of the organization. So if you want to prevent groupthink and you want people to speak up, you want a devil's advocate, then make sure people have the freedom to speak, people are not victimized, and there is no mob mentality or there is no sort of groupthink. It's a very important lesson, yeah, for all of you.
Professor, what about North Korea, Kim Jong?
What?
North Korea, Kim Jong.
That's a very good example. Yeah, because anybody who opens his mouth is shot. So that is why that country will never.
And all.
Another good example is China. Yeah, where people who speak up against the country are. So India might be chaotic, but then at least we have the right to speak up. So hopefully you prevent people from telling lies. There is more transparency and so on and so. Yeah. So these are some powerful lessons. I just wanted to show you a small, video of how, this can work. So give me a second, please. So this is from an interesting movie wherein it displays, it's on a submarine actually, and it's an argument between the commanding officer and his next in line. So it's a little fictitious, but I'm sure such instances have happened. They both disagree on a course of action. So this is, the United States is almost in a state of war because a nuclear weapons facility has been taken over in the Soviet Union, and they're afraid of what might happen. So just this is a scene, and we look at how role plays a part, group dynamics play a part. How do people negotiate power struggles and so on? Yeah. So this is a great movie. You should watch it. Yeah. So this is the sorry. Go back to the start. So this is the USS Alabama. That's a classic case of how power equations play out in tough situations, and so they want to launch nuclear missiles. Luckily, that guy, the first officer, played by Denzel Washington, he sort of doesn't concur. Otherwise, and then he's proved right later on that message was not complete, and so he played the devil's advocate. He took a different point of view, and that's what happens actually when you don't have people speaking up. Yeah. Any questions? Hello, are you guys there?
Yes, sir. All good, sir.
It's all good.
Yeah, it was clear message, definitely.
Yeah, it was. So that is how groups are expected to behave. It's a very extreme situation here where they want to launch nuclear missiles, but then people are expected to question decisions that may not seem right. And Ash showed that it is very difficult because groups tend to follow a group mentality or herd mentality or a mob mentality. Yeah. So then you have what are called as deviant workplace behaviors, also called antisocial behaviors or workplace incivility. So sorry, one second. Yeah. So how do people define norms? They define norms by reducing their working speed. They sabotage, they damage and they steal. And then you have interpersonal issues they create by favoritism, gossip. What is you? I'm sure all of you know what is gossip, right? And I saw the boss with the secretary at a movie theater. Classic form of gossip. Many people do it. That is why a lot of female workers in the workplace feel threatened, because it is very easy to threaten them with gossip. What is your experience, guys? Do you have so sexual harassment is one thing. I was talking about gossip basically. Does gossip happen at your workplaces?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, a lot. Yes, sir, a lot.
Yeah, so it is actually a form of deviant workplace behavior, and no good manager should allow it to sort of flower and blossom, because it can destroy your group and team. It's not a great thing to have. Yeah.
So one thing. So if all the reason for the gossip itself is the manager, what to do then?
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. Then we have no hope for the organization if you have managers like that. Yeah. So
Yes,
good
sir.
organization are able to stamp these things out fairly quickly. If the manager himself is gossiping about his team, then he needs his or her head examined. So, okay, group norms can influence the presence of deviant behavior. Simply belonging to a group increases the likelihood of deviance. That's what I said about mobs. Mobs feel very safe. So, when you have to be very careful when you're in a group, because two things increases courage. One is when you are a part of a group. Two thing is when you imbibe alcohol. Both have the same effect. Both lower your impedance levels. Both encourage you to think that you are super close to Superman. So please understand that your behavior is different when you're alone. Your behavior is different when you're part of a group, and you must be very careful. I have seen a lot of young people get into serious trouble because they thought that because they are part of a group, they're not accountable. A classic example is the Maruti Suzuki case, where some years ago, a group of workers, encouraged by their union leaders, caught hold of the HR manager, locked him up in his car, and set the car on fire, burning him to death. The case then went to court. There were more than 100 people involved. I think 15 to 20 people got a life sentence. All of them are rotting in jail. Their excuse was that we were more than 100 people. The judge took a very dim view of that. They nailed the culprits. They nailed the people who were in the forefront, and 15 of them, I think, got life sentences. That is, they are going to spend the rest of their life in jail, charged with first-degree murder. This is murder in the cold blood. So please be very clear that group influence on deviant behavior is enormous, and group influence on good behavior is enormous. Group behavior on deviant behavior is also enormous. So both are problematic areas. Must sort of stay cognizant of it. Status. So status is a socially defined position or rank given to group members. Status derived from one of the three sources: power a person has or others, ability to contribute to group goals, and personal characteristics. So what kind of status comes, what kind of status a person carries in a group is very important, and either it can come from, what power a person has over other people, what kind of influence they have over other people. Ability to contribute to group goals again is important. So what kind of where did Gandhiji derive his status from, if I may ask you, as per these 3 points?
So personal characteristics. Ability to contribute to group goals.
Yeah, I think it would be ability to contribute to group goals, because he showed a clear vision, and then he said that I will be able to get you freedom. So he had a certain sense of status. So somebody mentioned North Korea and Kim Jong Un. So where do you think he gets his power from? He gets his authority from, or he gets his status from?
Personal characteristics.
Personal characteristics.
Power a person has over
Power
others.
a person has over others.
Power a person has over others, obviously, because he can have you shot dead if you don't listen to him, if you talk something that is inimical to the great supreme leader, right? And then you have personal character. Some people have great charisma. So, for example, people like the say Amitabh Bachchans of the world, or the Shah Rukh Khans,
Rajnikant.
or
Virat Kohli.
Rajnikant, correct? Is very good. All those great movies he makes called Baba, and I haven't seen any of them, but I understand where his uh, status comes from. Or for that matter, Virat Kohli, and so he's a sportsman. But they have great power, particularly in South India. A lot of these guys who have charisma also enter into politics, and then they sort of become chief minister and so on. Andhra Pradesh, you had N.T. Rama Rao, a man of great charisma. People who have watched his movies will understand. He used to cavort around a lot of. He was an old man, but he used to run around with young females around trees and so on and so forth. Very charismatic guy. And similarly, you have people like Rajnikant, M.G. Ramachandran, Jai, huh?
So Jayalalitha also.
Jayalalitha. Yeah. So all these people went on to become chief minister and so on their personal characteristics. And they exuded charisma. That's an important word. So, yeah, it's very interesting. So, status effects on norms and conformity. How does it influence people below you? The status that you carry on group interactions. High status members are more assertive, like you saw the captain here, very assertive guy. Luckily, the XO, the next in line, stood up to him and stopped him from firing those nuclear missiles. On equity, if status is perceived to be inequitable, it will result in various forms of corrective behavior. You must understand that status has a very important role because it increases power distance. Power distance is the power a person derives because of his or her position. And those power differences must be carefully calibrated. Otherwise, you can have a lot of wrong decision making made. Any other example that you guys can give me? Yeah? No? Anything that you can think of with any other leaders who are great, very charismatic, and who have positions of power or have risen because of charisma?
Modi, sir.
Modi is very charismatic, is it?
Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, Professor.
Dhoni, okay.
Actually,
Saurabh
Professor.
Ganguly.
Huh?
Saurabh Ganguly.
Saurabh Ganguly, okay.
Abdul Kalam.
Abdul Kalam. Okay, so we can have a free ride of people naming. You tell me why also.
Like Modi, I would take example Modi. Like most of them used to say like boycott China's products and all. But he waited till the time arrives and slowly he like against like boycotting like Chinese app and all.
Okay. Right. Fine. So think about it, and we will look at something very interesting. And this was what was called as, it was called Ringelmann's group. You can look this up. Ringelmann. Yeah. Sorry, I can't write this. Yeah. Ringelmann. Of course, of German extract, American. So this is called the Ringelmann's rope pull test. Yeah. Ringelmann rope pull test is very simple. Ringelmann, all of you have done a tug of war, correct? So Ringelmann had two groups of people, group like this one here and this group. So he put a dynamometer in the middle to measure the force that was applied. And he introduced people. So first he introduced one person here, A on both sides. And he measured the force applied here. Then he introduced second person. And then he measured. Then he put third person. So he found that as he kept introducing people, suppose the force applied with A was X. When he brought a third person, it became 3X. Yeah? And then it became 4X. Then it became 5X. So as he kept putting people, and you see I put 6 people here. Then it became 6X. Then he found something very funny. When he introduced the 7th guy here on both sides, it should have become 7X. But actually it became only 6.5X. And when he put the 8th guy, it should have been 8X, but actually it became only 6. It became 6.9X. So he found that, so Ringelmann found that, as he kept introducing people beyond 6, instead of corresponding to the number of instead of becoming a force multiplier, the effort that was being applied started decreasing. And so he came up with this term called as social loafing. Yeah. Called social loafing. And he said that if you increase the number of people in a group beyond a certain point, the effort that they're applying starts dropping. And this has got serious consequences because you have free riders. He said you have free riders, people don't sort of put in their entire weight. So he said a ideal number is 6. Anything beyond 6 and you start having free riders and people don't stop contributing. So what do you guys think? You think that is true or you just keep increasing the size of your group?
No, it's true, sir.
That is true, sir.
Yeah. So this is a very important experiment conducted by Ringelmann. So you should sort of go and Google some of these things and read a little bit more about it. Of course, it's there in your textbook as well. And how do you reduce social loafing? Very important term. How do you reduce social loafing and get people to contribute is something that you should figure out as a manager. Otherwise, you'll be leading groups where people do not sort of contribute. Yeah. We looked at cohesiveness. We talked about group strength and group. Obviously, when you have a larger number of people in a group, they make better decisions. So have big teams, have reasonably good team sizes, so that people make decisions carefully. So this is about groups. Any questions you have? I gave you a fair understanding.
Good to go, sir. No doubts.
Okay, so I wanted to show you a very interesting short video before we move on to teams, and then I'll quickly talk about teams. This is a very I like this very much. So whatever I like, you guys have to see, since I'm the professor here. Little longish, but we'll watch it because it's very, very interesting. Yeah. I don't know whether you have shown. I don't think I have shown you this, so we'll go with this. I can also share the case study with you. So anyway, we'll watch this on. Values. It brings everything together: values, group behavior, culture, and so on and so forth. Talks about the Taj Hotel. Yeah. Have you seen this? Have I shown this to you before?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, so then we shall watch it then. It's a very interesting video. And I'll send you the case study, you can read it.
Attacked the city of Mumbai, what used to be called Bombay, in India. They broke up into teams to attack.
So that is very nice. So what do you guys think? So it brought in a lot of stuff: culture, values, leadership, norms, behavior, attitude, much of what we have seen in OB so far. Do you think so?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, yeah. So what are some of your thoughts?
We should own the organization or the company, sir. Like we should feel like it's ours. Then
You
we
should
can
feel
give
that
something.
you should have serious job involvement. Okay?
Yeah.
What else?
The HR policies are
Customer
very
centric, sir.
No, I didn't get that. What's that?
the HR policies are very much customer centric.
Very much customer centric, customer delight. Yes. Also, you know, there were very important norms. Even Ratan Tata said, even though manuals and so on, there's a lot of norms, value systems, which comes with the culture of that particular organization. Yeah. I think what that general manager said, Mr. Kang, about also what he learned from his father, that, you know, you have to take your job seriously, and if you are in charge, you are responsible for people that you lead. Yeah. So it's a fascinating video. You can watch it again. It's there on YouTube. I will also send you the case. Yeah.
Sir, could you share the link, sir?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll share you the link. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
So,
sir, did you face this kind of, experiences in your career, sir? Like when you were captain of the ship, something happened like this, like where you have to be like, this is my ship, or I have to do something like that related.
yeah, it comes. It's very natural. You're captain. It's your ship. It's your. That's why it's always called captain and his crew. Yeah, the crew. You are responsible for people on board your ship in whatever way it is, and that's how the training is. And it is only very cowardly people and people who don't understand the job, who don't sort of take care of people on board, or who don't take care of their ship. So yeah, I think it's very clear, and yeah. So yeah, okay. As far as I was concerned, I've been, luckily I was not the captain when I was in a sinking ship, but I've been captain on on ships that have been on fire in the middle of the sea. So I was once one of my sailors was sort of arrested and in an African country, and then he was set up for execution. So that was an interesting part. Also, when I was, you know, a couple of times as captain when pirate attacks and so on and so forth. So these are all situations which bring out your test your character really as to what will you do when you are really under pressure and when human life is involved or huge problems. So ships are very expensive pieces of equipment. So when they are threatened and so on, and how do you react? Test your leadership, test your value systems, test how you've been trained and things like that. Yeah. Okay, so quickly, I will just introduce you to this for 2 minutes before then we will continue next time. So work teams again is what we're going to do next. And work teams. Why are teams so important? Teams are very important because they are great ways to use employee talent. People seem to work better in teams. Teams are also very important because work has become so complex and difficult that unless you have teams, you really can't sort of, manage to get a lot of difficult work done. So teams are very important. Teams are more flexible and responsive to change in the environment. You have greater responsibility, greater flexibility, which is required. Can quickly assemble, deploy, refocus, and disband. Facilitate employee involvement. So obviously people want to be included, people want to be involved, and then when you have teams and they're part of a team, they'll be so much better. Increase employee participation in decision making. They increase employee participation in decision making. So now if you're involved, you're also part of the decision making. So there's a buy-in from as many people as possible. They democratize an organization. So one guy does not making all the decisions. There are a group of people who are making decisions, which is much better for organizations rather than one person. So otherwise you will become like North Korea and Kim Il-jung, where one guy is making all the decisions. You don't want to do that. You want a group of people. You want a democratic process. You want inclusion. You want buy-in. You want people to feel, that they're part of the whole system or movement. Teams, of course, are not always effective. Sometimes individuals are much better. For example, in some R&D projects and so on and so forth, you may not want to have teams and a whole set of people. And I want to also, give a disclaimer or a footnote that while attitude might have worked for Taj, hiring on attitude, hiring just on attitude may not be the way that many organizations want to sort of get people on board. Say the people who are doing high-end technical work may not just look for attitude, they may also look at intelligence, they may look at education, they may look at how smart you are, what kind of qualifications you bring to the table. So I don't want to take this again, like somebody said, management is not about, it also has got a lot of gray areas. What might work with one set of people may not work with another set of people. So you have to be a little cautious. Yeah. So I want to end my class there for the day today, because I want to do a little bit of Q&A. And if you have any Q&A, please tell me about it before I sort of take off and talk to you a little bit about the assignment and so on. Any questions so far? Or anything about the program that you wanted to ask me? So I'm here and you can feel free.
Yeah, sir, this is Amit here. I have a sort of doubt and question. We also see this groupism in our organization, especially when we manage a group of 10, 15 people. We see this groupism there, and we do not know, whether they are in the right direction or not. So as we discuss that subject here, the groups are always not effective. So can we do something to, to avoid groupism? Is that a good approach, to make people separate from the group, or how can we deal such situations?
Yeah, so I see groups are, you are going to have groups. Yeah, you're going to have, because people come with different subcultures and so on and so forth. And they feel, they get a sense of security when they go into a group. What you must do is to paint the vision very clearly and make people understand that groups cannot be detrimental to the larger strategy or the larger vision of the firm. So as long as, they have some small groups and they go into whatever they want to do, but they're not doing things that are inimical to the vision or the strategy or the objectives of your organization, I think that should be fine. So that is why vision documents are so important. Vision documents are so important. How do people sort of approach achieving goals is very important. We had so many different kinds of people on board a ship, but everybody knew that unless they cooperated and did well, the ship was in danger. You were in physical danger. So that kept everybody in line. The vision was very, very clear. So I would say that you have to work on the culture, you have to work on the value system, and you have to work on the bigger vision of your organization so that everybody understands it very clearly.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
It's a long process, and it has to come in slowly. It has to seep in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, there's one question regarding the assignment, the group assignment which is given. So, like we have been assigned one case study and one like whistleblower article. So that's the business problem actually. So just wanted your thoughts basically on the article side, because that's an article in author's view. How can we find a business problem in it and how to solve it? So what is the expectation that you're looking for?
So expectation is I want you to read these articles, do some amount. So case has a different, it's a case study. The article is more about, more about analyzing the article and understanding and, checking out what is there in that article. How it's going to work is on the appointed day, I'm going to ask you to present one of the two. And you have to be ready with both. Of course, you have to upload both the PPTs on the LMS.
Sir,
Each one of
it will
you has
be,
to upload.
okay, so sir, it will be a class presentation only, right?
What do you mean by class presentation?
Means that those group assignments will have to present in the class only, right? Because during the class only it will happen, or
The reason,
it's
sir,
like
the
we'll have
other,
to record or.
yeah, the other assignments, they have asked us to record the video and send it off. So maybe that's the reason.
No, it's going to be like this. I'm going to be the other side. You are going to present.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
On Zoom.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So Preeti, that is how it's going to be. You have to. Don't worry too much about the semantics of the thing. I want you to understand both the case as well as the article and make your presentation.
Okay, what did we understand? Because the question says what is a problem and how to solve that problem. So
if you find no problem, say there is no problem. This is the article.
Okay, fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So basically, it is what you are learning from that particular piece of few pages that you have. Yeah.
Sure, sir.
What I want importantly is how you link it to what you are studying in organization theory. I want you to see that connect.
Yeah, got it, sir. Yeah. Today's class was having a lot of linkage. So yeah, we can.
So also, if you are ready with that thing, let us get rolling. I'm not going to take about 3 hours we can do that also. We can take 1 3-hour session where you can all come together and make your presentation. Otherwise, as soon as your group is ready, please come forward. I will allocate about 20-25 minutes whenever you are comfortable and we can go through the process. What do you want to do?
I think the whole class together would be better.
That is ideal. That is ideal. Then we'll have to find 3 hours. Yeah. After I finish, one day, all of you have to come together. Maybe we'll do it from 9 o'clock in the night to 12 o'clock in the night.
Yeah, I'm in for Friday night probably.
Definitely not Friday, sir. Thursday would be ideal because
sir, I guess from the experience of HRM, 3 hours was not sufficient, and then it extended, I guess, 2 hours more.
Okay.
Even though each team took around 11 or 12 minutes.
it was about 20 minutes, near to 19 to 20
so
minutes.
that is why that is why I'm suggesting that whenever the group is ready, please reach out to me and I will schedule your presentation and let's go ahead, because if you're right, because if we do this as a class interaction, which actually is how it should be done, which is actually how I do in a physical context, we might take a long time to do this.
Right, so then that will be better, I think, individually.
Yeah, so when 8-9 of you in your group come together, you tell me when you're ready. And even if you're ready tomorrow, please tell me. We can go ahead and finish these things.
Sure, sir.
But obviously the cutoff is September 19th. Yes, cutoff is September 19th. Anybody who submits after that is going to lose marks.
Okay, sir. We'll do it before it.
Some of you have not given your assignment 1. Please finish it. It's important.
So this is Ankita. So could you please confirm if you've received the email for the video link? I've just resent it today morning.
To which mail ID, Ankita?
It is to, one second, it is to nagaraj@dsu.edu.in.
It is Nagaraja S, right?
Yes, Nagarajas.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have received it. Yeah. Can you just again re-forward that again to my official mail ID as well, if you don't mind?
Yes, sorry, which mail ID, sir?
That is a Dean, DEAN, Dean dash.
Okay, sure, we'll do it.
Yeah, just send it there as well.
Okay.
And then other folk as well who have not done their assignment, please have it completed. Amarnath, I think I've got. Yeah, I didn't see your video initially, but
yeah, I sent it, sir. The thing
I
was,
got it. I got it.
Yes.
So this is Rajan here. So this is regarding the exams. So is it October 10, 11, and 17, 18, the dates are confirmed?
Yes.
Thank you.
So just wanted to ask one question. This is Amarnath here. Regarding the examination, is it going to be a paper-based exam, or I mean, is there a directive from the government, or how is it?
So at the moment, we're looking at it as an online exam because I'm not sure really, in which direction we are heading. So we are planning right now for an online exam, which you should take from home.
Okay, because I am currently in Hyderabad, so there are a lot.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
So we will also try to give you we will give you a model test which you can go through to just familiarize yourself with how the exam happens. It's a very simple process, nothing to worry about. Just ensure that you are available and you have during that time and you have a proper internet connection.
Got it.
Sir, can we have a mock-up test kind of like?
Yes, we'll give you a mock-up test.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It would be great help, sir, because we don't know like exactly how it happens online. So yeah, thank you.
Also, Professor, this is Krishnaraj. So there is kind of small confusion between the total marks because we have 30 plus 30, 60 marks for the assignments and 40 marks for the annual exam, like the SEM exams. But so I got some news saying that it will be for 100 marks as well. So how exactly the marks will be allotted and how that gets added?
So we'll reduce 100 to 40.
Okay, so the 100 will be converted to 40 and that will be added. Is it? That's how?
It's like a scale downing from 100 to 40.
Right, it is that only.
It is pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Anything else?
So there are question banks and notes available in Moodle. So are those for us to go through like the complete list for preparation?
No, yeah. So those are MCQs. That was a model that we were following earlier. Don't worry about it. There are question banks. Yes, go through the question banks. So this will basically. So I will ask Professor Rajan to send you out the format as quickly as possible. So. So you can see the format. Yeah, it has got a section A, B, C. It's got a case study. Rajan, can you send the for question bank format to this? Yeah. You've sent it already.
It's there in the LMS.
No, the new format.
Yeah, I not yet sent, but
so Professor Rajan will send it to you in a day or two.
Sure. And sir, for preparation, like, shall we go over the class notes? What you?
Yes. Don't see, the least that you should worry about is the exam. Okay, I want all of you not to worry about the exam.
Okay, sir.
Attend the classes. Have a look at the PPTs. If you have time, read the textbook. If you have time, try to stay focused on what we have been talking about in class, and stay in touch with your professor, enjoy the program, do your assignments well, and I think you're all done and dusted.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Don't worry about the exam. That is for me to worry.
That is very reassuring.
But being a student, everybody has that worry. So that's
Don't.
coming out eventually.
You know, I have, you know something, Preeti, yeah? Who's asking me this question?
Yeah.
Preeti, I have set myself a target that 95% of you will pass. So I'm under more examination than you are.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. So if you guys don't pass, then I have failed. So that's how it is.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that you go and spend your time in Lal Bagh. Huh?
Not possible now, sir. So.
Not possible. So that
it is possible.
It also means that you put in enough of effort. Any other question?
Professor, will be an option like we can come to the university and we write the exam?
Yeah, you come. No problem. Come. Bring your laptop.
Fine.
Don't attempt to take the exam on telephone and things like that. Please stay. As far as exams are concerned, as far as exams are concerned, please stay in touch with Professor Rajan. Okay, folk. I hope you enjoyed the class, and I will meet you. And like I said, any of your groups who have finished your assignment 2, please reach out to me, and we will sort of go through the assignment. Yeah.
Sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.